This is 6 Minutes, the Seriously International Daily Newscast. It's Tuesday, February 25th, and I'm Jacob Shropshire.
And I'm Anne-Sophie Goninet. It's supper time in Seoul and breakfast time in Belize. In Marrakesh and here in the Wonkunch newsroom, the lunch hour is arriving. These are the latest headlines. Russia praises the new US position on Ukraine after a UN vote. A conference has begun in Syria to chart the nation's political future. And our daily quiz question comes from the music scene in the UK. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov welcomed what he described as, quote, a much more balanced position from the US regarding Ukraine after Washington pushed through a UN resolution that called for an end to the conflict but contained no criticism of Russia. The votes held on the third anniversary of the war highlighted the dramatic shift in the US stance since President Trump took office a month ago.
A national dialogue conference to help chart Syria's political future is underway in Damascus. The meeting gathers representatives from across society to discuss Syria's future in the wake of the rebel offensive that overthrew the decades-long dictatorship of the Assad family. EU foreign ministers met their Israeli counterpart Gideon Sa'ar in Brussels on Monday as Europe considered a role in the reconstruction of Gaza following last month's fragile ceasefire deal. Sa'ar said he didn't want his country's relationship to Europe to be, quote, held hostage to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and described the session as candid.
South Korea's ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol faced his final impeachment hearing in Seoul on Tuesday before judges decide whether to formally remove him from office over his short-lived martial law declaration in December last year. The 60-year-old has been behind bars since he was arrested last month on charges of insurrection. If he's definitely removed from office, South Korea will have to hold a new presidential election within 60 days. Now, let's take a closer look at what the international press is covering.
The daily L'Humanité, like much of the French press, led today with a photo of the White House meeting of U.S. President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron. The newspaper called the French leader's visit to Washington mission impossible. Macron told Trump that Europe was looking to step up its defense spending, but pushed for U.S. involvement in securing any peace settlement in Ukraine. The leaders both indicated that a truce of some kind could happen as quickly as the next 2 weeks.
Business wires from Latin America and Asia are covering the news that Cuba's top cigar maker Habanos saw a 16% uptick in revenue in 2024, raking in $827 million in a record-breaking sales year. The company credits the spike in sales to a growing market of wealthy smokers in Asia, which is where roughly a quarter of sales come from. Cigars are one of the last major exports from the island nation that has experienced a deep economic crisis caused by state controls and US sanctions since the 1960s. We have Kyiv-based news outlet Lvivy Bereg describing Vladimir Putin's ambitions right now. Jacob, run us through the story.
Petro Andreyushenko writes that by negotiating exclusively with the U.S., Vladimir Putin aims to redraw the spheres of influence and to pull the former Soviet states, Ukraine, Moldova, and the Baltic states, under Moscow's control. Other European countries could be next. So the current negotiations aren't just about ending the Ukraine war, they're about the global future for the coming decades. Paradoxically, he writes, Ukraine remains in a strong diplomatic position because the world balance of power cannot be resolved without Ukrainians.
From Beirut-based outlet Daraj, we have a piece on how the downfall of the Assad regime meant that Algeria lost a strong ally in the Arab region. Algiers, a rare ally to the ousted regime, is now looking to establish relations with the new leadership in Damascus, hoping to maintain its old alliance despite the change of regime.
And we have a piece from Polish daily Gazeta Wyborcza about how a Lego set revived Poland's bitterness over Marie Curie. The Polish and French descriptions of the new Lego set include her full name, Maria Skłodowska-Curie, but the English version leaves the simplified form, Marie Curie, something Poles have been vocally unhappy about.
We're closing things out today with our daily quiz question, which comes to us from the UK music scene. Some 1,000 high-profile musicians, including Kate Bush, The Clash and Annie Lennox, released a protest album in the UK of complete silence. But what are they protesting? Is it A. Unfair Grammy selection process, B. AI access to copyrighted music, C. Use of vocoder, or D. K-pop? The correct answer is B. More than 1,000 musicians have released a silent album on Tuesday in protest at the UK government's plans to let artificial intelligence companies use copyright-protected work without permission. With this album entitled Is This What We Want?, artists hope to draw attention to the potential impact of these proposed changes to copyright law on livelihoods and the UK music industry. All profits will be donated to the charity Help Musicians.
That's the latest from around the world. If you liked this podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you could help us out with a follow, a share, and a 5-star rating on your preferred podcasting platform. For more of the best of the international press delivered exclusively in English, visit us at worldcrunch.com. We'll see you here tomorrow. Aduna.